later on to perhaps ask the Minister of Agriculture about this piece of legislation. And with that, I take my place, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. If I recognize the Honourable Deputy Premier, be to close debate on Bill 173. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Bill number 173.
Motion is for second reading of Bill number 173. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried.
73, entitled An Act Respecting the Bee Industry.
Order that Bill number 173 be sent to the Committee on Law Amendments. The Honourable Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, move second. Mr. Speaker, would you please call Bill number 174, the Auditor General Act?
Bill number 174, the Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Really, today I'm speaking to this bill in my capacity of Chair of the Treasury and Policy Board, and also, I might also say, as a member of an all-party committee which has been formed, composed of myself, the member for Halifax Fairview, and the member for Halifax Citadel, to look at matters relating to the transition in Nova Scotia and appointment of a new Auditor General. And as a result of deliberations of that committee, the committee jointly has put forward these amendments to the House for consideration. And really, Mr. Speaker, they do two things. Firstly and foremost, of course, it provides for something that perhaps should have been provided for quite a while ago, which is that the Auditor General would not be appointed except with the support of the majority of members of the Legislative Assembly. You know, the Auditor General obviously needs to have the support and confidence of the House in order to be able to do his or her job. And the second part of that, of course, Mr. Speaker, is a provision that provides for a term of office for the Auditor General, and that again was a matter that the committee agreed was the appropriate measure, quite consistent across the country, that terms of office exist, and that they would not be renewable, because it was felt that that would be that would put the Auditor General in a position of some conflict. Mr. Speaker, I might add that those recommendations are supported by the present Auditor General, who believes that these would be helpful changes for his successor. And so, really, as a member of that joint committee, all-party committee, and on behalf of the government, I'm pleased to move second reading of the bill.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Fairview.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And like the Minister of Justice, I'm addressing this bill perhaps with more than one capacity, not only as a member of the House, but also as Chair of the Public Accounts Committee and as the NDP representative on the all-party committee charged with overseeing the process of selecting a new Auditor General. The current Auditor General, Mr. Roy Salmon, has announced that he is retiring at the end of the current fiscal year, which is the end of March 2006. And the process has begun to select a new Auditor General, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to take a few minutes today in the context of the bill before the House to talk about the process that has been agreed upon by the all-party committee. And I do want to say right away, Mr. Speaker, that the government deserves to be congratulated for the way that they have approached this particular matter. We all know how important the office of the Auditor General is and has become to accountability and the proper functioning of government. If anything, Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General's office has grown in stature and importance nationally as a result of certain events, but simply as a result of the fact that over many years, Auditors General have shown themselves to be objective, dependable, thoughtful observers of the workings of government. And Mr. Speaker, we only have to look at the situation up in the federal government to know with what in integrity and respect the federal Auditor General has reported, Mr. Speaker, on all manner of subjects, whether it is favorable to the government or not, Mr. Speaker. And I think we have to congratulate our sitting Auditor General, Mr. Roy Salmon, whose office has, and his senior staff, and may I mention for the record, his senior staff, Claude Carter, Elaine Morash, and Alan Horgan, who together with the Auditor General have certainly seen the same growth of respect and stature of the office we all find their reports very helpful, useful, informative, and I know that the media do as well, as do the members of the public who take an interest in government affairs. So when an Auditor General retires, it's very important that the process be thorough and objective to find someone to fill this very important office. Now, strangely enough, Mr. Speaker, in Nova Scotia, the appointment of an Auditor General is up to the Governor-Council. It's up to the Cabinet. It's a Cabinet appointment, which is odd since the Auditor General is, in a sense, reporting on the activities of Cabinet or the follow-through on decisions from Cabinet. But to the Premier's credit, Mr. Speaker, this Premier, like the Premier in 1992 when the last Auditor General was selected, has not followed the narrow words of the Auditor General Act, but has made the process an all-party one. And Mr. Speaker, at the Premier's instigation and with the support of the other party leaders, an all-party committee has been struck, the membership being the Minister of Justice, myself, and the member for Halifax Citadel. And the process that we have arrived at, that we have agreed on by consensus to follow, is as follows: that a request for proposals would be issued to executive search firms. The request, we'd be asking the executive search firms to follow a two-step process. The first step, to conduct a wide consultation on the job qualifications and criteria. What are we looking for in an Auditor General? Once they report back to the Oversight Committee and the Oversight Committee has approved that report, then they go out to do the actual job search. To invite applications, but not only to invite applications, but go and seek out people who are likely to fulfill the duties of the office with distinction, Mr. Speaker, whether they had actually thought of applying themselves or not. Then a short list would be presented to the Oversight Committee, Mr. Speaker, and as long as the process has been properly followed, that short list would be approved, and the candidates would then go before an interview committee. There would be a 5-person interview committee consisting of 2 representatives of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nova Scotia, 1 representative of the Nova Scotia Barristers Society, 1 person representing the academic community, and 1 person representing the Canadian Council of Legislative Auditors, in other words, sitting Auditors General from other provinces. Mr. Speaker, this 5-person interview committee would interview the candidates and then rank the candidates in order. This ranked list would then be made known to the Oversight Committee and then presented to Cabinet for approval. As is appropriate, Mr. Speaker, it is appropriate that Cabinet have the final decision on who the Auditor General should be, but if this process is followed, Mr. Speaker, if they were to choose someone other than the first-ranked candidate, that would be publicly known and the government would have to justify that decision. If the process is followed through properly, there's no reason to think that Cabinet would choose someone other than the top-ranked candidate. Mr. Speaker, we find this process not only acceptable but highly desirable. We believe that it is a model for now and for the future for the selection of Auditors General. And that is not all that this Oversight Committee has done. The government, to its credit, to the credit of the Minister of Justice in particular, has invited the other parties to be involved from the very beginning in the crafting of the legislation that is before the House today for second reading. From the very beginning, the opposition parties were invited to indicate what amendments to the Auditor General Act that they would want and which ones they could support, Mr. Speaker. And so this bill that has come before the House is one that has already been looked at by the opposition caucuses, approved by the opposition caucuses, going forward, Mr. Speaker, in a very consensus-driven process. It's a shame, Mr. Speaker, only that this process, which I think has been very productive, could not be followed in other areas of government, Mr. Speaker. It is a shame that this process, because, Mr. Speaker, the government knows that the opposition isn't always wrong. The opposition knows that the government's not always wrong. Each of us have good ideas, and by working together constructively, we are bound to come up with better legislation. It's It's a shame sometimes, Mr. Speaker, when the government tables legislation in the House and the first we ever see or hear of it is the day it lands on the clerk's desk, Mr. Speaker. And it seems to me that the process we followed, the most excellent process we followed in creating this piece of legislation is a model for other processes as well, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with those words, let me say again, congratulations to the Premier for following this process in the selection of the Auditor General. Let me congratulate the Minister of Justice for following through on the process as agreed to by the party leaders. And we look forward to this process unfolding and the selection of a new person to fill the very important job of the Auditor General of Nova Scotia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Recognize the honourable member for Richmond.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Ça me fait plaisir de passer quelques commentaires sur le projet de loi 174 qui a à faire avec le processus qui sera suivi pour la sélection de nouveaux vérificateurs généraux pour la province de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Je tiens à joindre un collègue de Halifax-Fairview qui a parlé du processus, le fait que le comité qui représentait tous les partis politiques ici à l'Assemblée pour faire la décision sur qu'est-ce qui était la meilleure façon de choisir quelqu'un ou quelqu'une qui sera indépendante et qui pourra servir dans ce rôle si important. Et j'ai entendu que le membre d'Halifax Fairview, je pense que peut-être même le ministre de la Justice a suggéré peut-être la vérificatrice générale à Ottawa serait une bonne choix pour ici à l'Assemblée à Nouvelle-Écosse. Et je suis d'accord parce que ce serait très bon d'avoir une vérificatrice générale qui pourra se prononcer en français ici à Nouvelle-Écosse et qu'on aura une autre position bilingue dans le secteur public ici à la Nouvelle-Écosse. Et peut-être, je ne sais pas si le comité a même discuté la possibilité que le prochain candidate sera bilingue, mais je pense que c'est une bonne occasion de peut-être, j'espère qu'ils seront en train de choisir, si il y a quelqu'un qui est bilingue pour le poste, que ce sera pris en considération, en décider qui sera la prochaine personne. Je tiens aussi à féliciter M. Roy Salmon pour son bon travail. J'ai eu l'occasion de travailler directement avec lui sur le comité qui a affaire avec les public accounts ici à la province. Quand j'étais membre, quand on était le parti de pouvoir, quand on a été en opposition, et on a été très bien servi par lui, le vérificateur général, et par son équipe qui travaille avec lui. Alors, j'y souhaite bonne chance quand il va prendre sa retraite. Je suis certain qu'il a établi une bonne route pour la personne qui va le suivre à cette position. Speaker, just briefly on Bill 174, the Auditor General Act, my colleague from Halifax Citadel would have been a member of this all-party committee in determining the rules and selecting who the next Auditor General would be, and I'm sure he would ask me to pass on his congratulations to Roy Salmon and his staff for the excellent work that they have done, that they continue to do for government, for members, more importantly for average Nova Scotians, in making sure that tax dollars are properly spent and that are properly accounted for. I also, I'm sure he would want me to congratulate the government and the Minister of Justice for the process that has been brought forward. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out it's amazing some of the things that can be achieved under minority government with goodwill from everyone, but I think this is certainly an important step. More important that the person chosen will understand that they've been given a mandate that is supported by the different political parties in this province, which hopefully will be a reflection to them that they do have the support of Nova Scotians, but certainly they will have an important role to play, and will certainly have big shoes to fill in the legacy that Roy Salmon has left for that post. And I wish him well in his retirement, and certainly again thank his senior staff for the hard work that they do, and putting a time limit on Auditor General here in the province, I believe, is a positive change, and at the end of the day will give Nova Scotians hopefully that added level of confidence that their hard-earned tax dollars are being properly spent and being properly accounted for here in this province. So I look forward to this bill moving forward, 2 law amendments, and if there's any suggestions or changes proposed by the public there, we will deal with them at this point. But I again congratulate the government for bringing it forward, and we'll certainly be giving the support of the Liberal caucus for it to move from second reading. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the Honourable Minister of Justice. You to close debate on Bill number 174. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Again, thank you very much. I would like to obviously thank the 2 members opposite who spoke earlier on the bill. As was indicated during that the debate, this is a matter of cooperation, and I look with all members forward to passage on to committee and ultimate passage in law. With that, I'd move the second reading.
Motion is for second reading of Bill 174. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Counterminded nay. Motion is carried.
Bill 174, entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 28 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Auditor General Act.
Bill 174 be referred to the Committee on Law Amendments. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, I move that you do now leave the chair and the House resolve in the Committee of the whole House on bills.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Carried.
Like to recognize the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Would you please call Bill number 145, the Elections Act?
Bill number 145, the Elections Act. The bill has amendments, and it has been reprinted and distributed. Question has been called. The motion is for second reading. Oh, I'm sorry. Shall the clauses as amended carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The bill is carried. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, would you please call Bill number 147, the Youth Justice Act?
Bill number 147, the Youth Justice Act. Question has been called. Has that been amended, Rod? Shall the amendments carry? Shall the clauses carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The bill is carried. The Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, would you please call Bill number 165, the Education Act?
Bill number 165, the Education Act. Is the House ready for the question? Shall the clauses carry? Shall the title carry? Shall the bill carry? The bill is carried. I'll now recognize the Government House Leader.
Mr. Chairman, I move that your committee do now rise and report these bills.
Chairman of the Committee of the whole House on Bills reports.
The committee has met and considered 3 bills, namely 145, 147, and 165. Chairman's been instructed to recommend all these bills without, or with favorable consideration and without amendment.
These bills be read a third time at a future date. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, that concludes the government business for today. I move the House to now rise to meet again on the morrow at the hour of 9 a.m. And the order of business following the daily routine will be Committee of the whole House on estimates. The first estimate in the House is health, and in the red chamber will be agriculture. The House will sit for 4 hours on estimates tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. I move now that the House to now rise.
Motion is the House adjourned to 9 a.m. Is agreed? All those in favor say aye. Counterminded nay. Motion is carried. The House adjourned to 9 a.m. We've reached the moment of interruption. The subject of this evening's late debate was submitted by the honourable member for Cape Breton Nova. The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's interesting today. Our resolution reads, therefore be it resolved that this government has not adequately addressed the issue of roads in rural Nova Scotia. And I think that is very, very true. In fact, it's extremely true, and nothing could be further from the truth. But if you get proof of that, I suppose you could, some of you may have seen the show on TV last night or on Global News at 6 o'clock about just another example of a deteriorating rural road in this province. And this particular one happened to be from my riding. It was the road of White Hill in Pictou County. It's a road that was paved in 1981, and it was a gravel road to that point, and they put just a very small skim of pavement was put over that particular road, and within 2 or 3 years it had started to break down, deteriorate, and so there's been a lot of attention brought to this White Hill Road. I brought it up here in the legislature before to the minister and to the premier and to the area manager and others. But it's at the point today that it's just totally unacceptable. It's potholed, it's cracked, it's heaved, it's broken. And I think residents have decided to take things into their own hands and called the television station and said, come on out and have a look at our road. You'll see for yourself just how bad it is. And it was obvious from the clip on the news last night that it is in very, very poor shape. It's just not acceptable in 2005. And so I think residents are fed up. They just want better. They're looking for safety in their area. When you have to travel across the road and onto the other side, you can see just how poor it is. So it's a safety issue, not only for drivers, but for children that are on school buses when they're bounced around by a very rough road. And so naturally, mothers and fathers are concerned about their children that travel on our school buses. And you may have seen on the clip, Mr. Speaker, there was one lady that mentioned she had to travel in an ambulance, and it was so rough that the ambulance had to stop in order to put an IV into her at that particular time. So that's an extremely poor road. There's also the cost to the residents that live there. They're fed up with the cost of tires and rims and mufflers and front-end repairs, ball joints and sway bars and so on. So there's many things wrong in rural Nova Scotia when the roads are this bad that you have to call a TV station to come out and have a look at just how poor it is. There's another cost here too, Mr. Speaker, not only the cost for safety, the cost for school children, the cost to the drivers for their cost of various car parts, but there's an economic development cost when people, farmers and small business people are traveling down the road, and again, it's adding up. Some of these people are not going to come into an area that's in need of repair when they know that the road is this poor. So that's one example that proves that this resolution is correct, that this government has not adequately addressed the issue of rural roads. Another example, as I brought up previously in this House, was Highway 256 through Scottsburn and West Branch and through to the Colchester County line. And people there are also fed up. They've formed a Highway Improvement Committee under the chairmanship of Ron Goodall and a number of other community people that have come together and said that this is just no longer acceptable, and they want a better road. They're tired of the damage to their cars and to the safety issue, similar to what's been going on in White Hill. They've signed petitions, they've written letters. Again, they invited a TV station to come in and have a look at their road. I think it was CBC television was there earlier this year. There's been public meetings held. There's been a number of people have gone to municipal council to seek support through their local councillor, and just on it goes. So the roads are unacceptable in many areas of my riding and throughout other areas of Nova Scotia. Now, I know the government has brought down their budget, and they've said they're going to spend more money on roads, and it's a slight increase over last year. I see by the budget estimates, it's $263 million, which is a bit more than last year, and I understand there's some other money, perhaps in another fund, that will allow for some additional repairs to our roads, but it's nowhere near what's needed. And there was a 10-year study done in our province here in 2001 that identified the infrastructure deficit in our province as around $3.5 billion, and that's in 2001 dollars. Today that would be $4, maybe even $5 billion in total, that we're a long, long ways under what's required here in this province. So it's we absolutely need to put more dollars into our roads, and the 10-year study proves it. So while we're putting a little bit more in this year, we're still in need of putting many more dollars into our rural infrastructure. New Brunswick is spending more money than we are on their secondary roads. Many other provinces are spending more per capita. And again, looking at the budget estimates, I see under the debt pie chart that's there, transportation is only getting 4.1% of the budget this year. We need more dollars for roads. And I guess the final thing I'll mention before I turn it over to my colleague who wants to share my time here on this issue is that it has to be done fairly. You know, if there's whatever road work is going to be done in Nova Scotia, the worst roads should be done first. And it should not be based on anything but that, the need, and not on where people live or how they vote or if there's an election coming along or not. It should be based on fairness, and that's all I guess we can ask, Mr. Speaker, of our minister and our department, that all areas of the province be looked at on a fair basis, and that should include areas like Highway 256 in Pictou County, the White Hill Road, and all ridings throughout this province that are in need of improvement. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll turn it over to my colleague to share my time.
Member for Hants East, you have about 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'm really pleased to have an opportunity to speak to this resolution. I actually wish I had more time. I have a rural constituency, and I live on a gravel road. And if anybody wants to verify that, they need only to look at my car parked in the parking lot at the dirt on it. And I want to say that it has been particularly difficult getting work done on roads, and I have a constituency that's large enough. And we used to have 3 sheds that operated in Hants East. We had one in Upper Rawdon on the Beaverbank Road. We had one in Knoll and one in Milford, and now we have Knoll and Milford. The one on the Beaverbank Road has been shut down. It's a storage area, and in particular used a little bit in the winter for getting plows out, whatever, but not much. And the number of men that we have presently in Hants East is the same as we used to have in one shed. So we're down to 1/3 of the manpower that we used to have. Recently, they started to patch some of the potholes after the winter, and they had to combine the crew from Milford and Knoll together to get a crew to patch potholes, which I think is totally ridiculous that we don't have 3 crews patching at the same time, not to mention the number of other things that should be done at any one given time while they're patching, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Transportation did come out in my constituency last year to tour the East Uniacke Road. It's been particularly difficult to get the minister out, I have to say. I started the fall before to try to get him out to Hants East, and that's after 2 or 3 years. And is that my time, Mr. Speaker? Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize the member for Digby-Annapolis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for some time to speak on the roads for the people of Digby-Annapolis and probably all of the other rural Nova Scotians. I won't be long because I like to get right to the point. Mr. Speaker, the point is in my riding there are approximately 500 kilometers of road, and approximately 1/3 of these are gravel, or mud roads, I should say. The local department has told me that they have been putting pit run gravel on them for the last few years because it's cheaper to buy. But this pit run gravel is mostly mud. They claim this is necessary because the money is being cut to the local departments over the past years. And the proper gravel would be the basalt rock that is very available to us. It is the rock that American companies are after to rebuild their own roads in the United States because to them it's a cheap rock. But here we are using mud on our roads. If proper gravel was put on these roads, they wouldn't be in the bad shape they're in today. You seem to get what you pay for in anything in life, and you buy cheap gravel, you get the mud. You get impassable roads during the wet weather that's so soft the department can't even get their own graders onto them. This spring, most of these roads have been impassable even by ambulances and fire trucks. People are telling me they're afraid for their lives because of poor access to their homes. If a house fire ever broke out or if someone got hurt, these emergency vehicles would not be able to get to them on these dirt roads. Mr. Speaker, I've been told that the Department of Transport gets so many calls in Digby, Annapolis, that some of its workers of this department take sick leave during the mud season because they feel hopeless in helping solve this problem. Mr. Speaker, I know of some individuals hauling gravel on their own, trying to fix the dirt roads enough to get them out of their driveways, and they are using good gravel too to do that. They don't mind doing this, but they ask me continuously, where's our tax dollars going? Why do the another question is why do the road graders grade the surface of our roads into the ditches? Shouldn't they be grading towards the center then leveled? Wouldn't this build a better crown on our dirt roads and waste less gravel? In our case, it's mud. Some ditches that used to be 3 feet deep are now level with these roads and filled with growing alders. This is caused by graders pushing it into the ditches and by eroding mud from the roads during the summer and spring rains. If ditches was properly done, these roads wouldn't be in half as bad a shape as they are today. But we know it's lack of money and in some cases of good common sense when it comes to proper maintenance of our especially dirt roads. If we started building these dirt roads with proper gravel, the cost to the maintenance would decrease, saving us money. Mr. Speaker, all of these secondary paved roads are in dire need of work also, and I just want to name a few. South Range Cross, North Range Cross, Plimpton, Clemensport River Road, Digby Neck, a section of Highway number 8 at Annapolis, and on I could go. Long Island Road has not been paved for over 50 years, but Long Island has had 6 kilometers done each for the past 2 years, and the people thank you very much for this. But the final 6 kilometers must be finished. We are in hopes that this will be done this paving season. This road was to be done in 3 phases of 3 years, and this is the 3rd year. I would like to add that the Weymouth Mill Road has been announced to be fixed this coming summer. The folks in this area have been asking for this for many years and are thanking the government for this move, but much more needs to be done to the roads. There is also the number 1 highway between Weymouth and Digby, and it's nice that we're twinning highways in Nova Scotia, but in Digby, we haven't even got a single controlled access highway yet. This is a 30-year issue in this area, and I hear it every day from the people who have lived on this stretch of dangerous road. We know money's hard to come by, and we know that this is what the government will say, but we must find a way to start rebuilding our rural roads. We must have a new plan of action and create the funding to do this. If not, we will be so far behind in road repair that we will never catch up. All our problems in this province, or most of them, come down to the lack of money. With our roads at $3.5 billion plus in deficit and growing, I would say it's time for us to look at ways of finding solutions to this problem, and I'm positive that we can do that. Mr. Speaker, this is another story, but it's something to think about, and that is taking good care of our resources, and that includes the out-migration of our children, one of our greatest resources. With our resources slipping away without any benefit for the people of Nova Scotia is nothing more than poor management and lack of common sense. Mr. Speaker, if lack of money is our problem, we had better find ways to correct this. And the deal of our offshore resources was a great start, and I congratulate both our provincial and federal government. But we can't stop there. We have many resources that can truly benefit the people of Nova Scotia if they are properly managed. Mr. Speaker, for every problem there is a solution. There always was and always will be. Let's get to work towards that solution, and our reward will be a better way of life for all Nova Scotians. Thank you very much.
Order, please. Would the honourable member was sharing his time? Sorry, Mr. With the honourable member for Victoria the Lakes. You have about 5 minutes. Sorry, about 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm proud to have shared my time, like I said, with the honourable member from Digby Annapolis, because what he has said bears repetition. I, as the critic, it's continually over and over and over the same topic, the same, pointing to the same thing. And as my colleague said, 3.5 million. And to quote the Honourable Minister in the House recently, he said probably given that amount in today's terms would be more like 5 billion rather than 3.5. So we have a tremendous deficit. And where do I begin? We've referenced the road today for about the third or fourth time at the area of in Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley. I hear the ministers talking about the weight restrictions and whatnot. They're coming off now. But, Mr. Minister, what I would like to do, Mr. Speaker, through you to the minister, is just focus on something a little bit different. What about the cost to education? Compare that to the roads. What has that got to do with roads? Unnecessary damage to school buses that is taking valuable money from education to have to repair those. We have workers, trained professional workers I know of, that are now trying so hard to repair those roads with a stripped down crew, laid off crew, that they're heating old asphalt with a propane torch and running out with it in a bucket and trying to dump it in the hole and roll it down while it's still hot. Now, if that's not a disaster, I don't know what is. And the problem that they're facing is they cannot do that anymore simply because of the rules and regulations of the Department of Labour will not allow them unless they shut the lane down completely. And I've referenced that in the House here. They were shutting it down. It takes an hour to shut down a lane, an hour to open it back up, and 5 minutes to fix the hole. Mr. Speaker, I could mention the road to Washabuck down in my area. That's the road to Washout. I can reference the road out in the Scotch Lake, the McDonald Road. That's been 20 to 25 years trying to get that paved. There's the rear east loop in Wagmacook. And I know just by talking to the gentleman in the area, they went out and they costed that, but there's no chance of ever having that paved in the foreseeable future. So we have a problem. We know we have it. Money is the thing. I hear them say that every bit of the tax gas is going into the roads. I looked at the chart in the budget yesterday. 4% of motor tax is collected by the province, and 3.3% was put in last year. This year, 4% is being collected again, and 3.4% is going into transportation. So to me, that shows a clear discrepancy, Mr. Speaker, on what's needed for the roads is more money. If I'm out of time, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the time to present my case.
Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it's a great pleasure to correct some of the misinformation that is being passed on, in particular from the Liberal Party. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I don't want to dwell on this, but I do have to bring to the attention of the House again, before I commence my remarks, that The root of this problem occurred in 1993 when the government changed. And the government of the day said, we need money to do things. Where are we going to get that money? The easiest way is to take it from the capital expenditures of the Department of Transportation. And in those days, Mr. Speaker, the capital account was rolled along with the operational account into one. Over the years, from 93 until 2000, Mr. Speaker, the budget of the Department of Transportation for capital construction decreased from about $112 million, I think, down to $40 million in the year 2000. Mr. Speaker, since we have been in government, rather than not adequately addressing the issues of roads in rural Nova Scotia, we have increased the capital budget from $40 million to this year approximately $142 million. 142 from $40 million, Mr. Speaker. Now, that is not ignoring the needs of rural Nova Scotia insofar as the roads are concerned. Contrary to what the Liberal Party is saying about the number of workers in the department, the number of hours. Now, you can't measure employees in the Department of Highways on their summer and their winter programs as being employees full-time. That's part-time, so we measure them by the number of hours of work put in. The number has not decreased since the 90s. In fact, this year we're going to add approximately I forget what the number is, about 110, I believe, more full-time equivalents in this 1 year alone. So, Mr. Speaker, how can people stand up and in this House and say that we are taking people away from carrying on their duties of winter and summer maintenance? They can't say that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader in the House of the Liberal Party today was talking about the fact that one of the reasons we don't have enough money for highways this year, beyond what we've already got, is because of the fact that the Premier got $830 million and he still hasn't got it. Well, Mr. Speaker, let me just tell you that the official leader of the New Democratic Party, Mr. Mackenzie, the Liberal, was quite happy to accept $640 million. Now, if we just accepted the $640 million, what would our budget be in transportation? But enough of the past. Let's get on to the future and what we're doing. We do indeed have a capital deficit, a infrastructure deficit in the Department of Transportation. Indeed, it was, when we took over the government, $3.5 billion. But that number has increased simply because of the fact that inflation has come into power, and now it's costing approximately $175,000 per kilometer to repave a road. $175,000, whereas back in the 90s it was around about $90,000. $90,000 now in the last 5 or 6 years, primarily because of the cost of oil and things like that. The cost of repaving roads is about $175,000 per kilometre. And that's why, Mr. Premier, we can't just run to try and catch up. We've got to get on a horse and gallop off to finally catch up with just inflation alone in order to take care of that infrastructure, which has ballooned, as the honourable member from Pictou just said, from $3.5 billion, and it's up around probably $4 billion now, maybe even $5 billion that we need to repair the highways and the bridges in this province, and to also take care of some expansion, which we need, as a member from Digby was saying. There is a section there of the 101 which is still an open highway. In other words, it isn't a limited access highway. We should look after that. But we don't have the money, Mr. Speaker. And when people say, well, get some more money, Remember, if we're going to get more money, we've got to take it from somewhere. Are you saying we should take it from the Department of Health? Are you saying we should take it from the Department of Education? Are you saying we should take it from community services? Because if you aren't saying that, because they spend all the money, natural resources and environment and labor and justice and other departments, their money it's down to the bottom of where it can go. Our primary expenditures now are in those three big departments. The next biggest is transportation, and thank goodness we're climbing up, but we've got a long way to go. We have to spend our money more smartly. Now, when I say and during estimates, somebody will ask me about contracting out. We have to contract out. If we don't contract out our RIM program, etc., the number of kilometers of roads that you'll get has got to decrease because it costs more money to do through our own resources. It costs more money if we use our own resources to do things such as that. We don't even have a paver anymore in the department. We used to have a crew that used to be in competition with the private industry. It cost more. I'm sorry, it would. Mr. Speaker, the RIM program is very, very cost effective. We are getting approximately 30% more production from RIM than we would the way we were operating before. Contracting out is saving us money. We still need our own people. We still need our own people. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to do away with the employers that we've got. We've got good employees, and we could probably use more. As I say, we're taking on another 100 and something. I think it's 110. I'm not absolutely sure about that number this year. We need those people. They're good people. They're hardworking people. They're enthusiastic, and they do a good job. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we have so much work to do. And so much of it is specialized work that can only be done by private contractors. We don't have the skills now to go out and build a concrete bridge. We don't have those kinds of skills. We don't have the skills to lay a concrete highway, which we're doing in some areas now. We don't have the skills or the equipment to even lay large stretches of asphalt. Mr. Speaker, we have got to spend our money more smartly. We're going to do that. We in fact, just yesterday, we went ahead with that bridge program that I was mentioning in the House before, which Cherubini is a local company, local steel company, has got the rights for Atlantic Canada and for the Caribbean for this new type of bridge, and it makes sense. Years and years ago, as I've said in the House before, you could buy a bridge from a catalog. You'd open it was like Eaton's catalog. You'd open up and you need a bridge that's 30 feet long or 100 feet long, and you look it up in the catalog and you'd find one there, and it would be so much. It was just like buying from Eaton's. They would ship it up in bits, and you put it together, set it on a couple of abutments, and you got a bridge. Now, what we do, or at least what we have been doing, we've been bringing a crew to a spot on the river, and we've been building up we pour the concrete into the abutments, and then dragging steel across, and then laying concrete on top of that. Time-consuming, costing a lot of money. You get a bridge, but you don't get a bridge any better than the old-fashioned one which you just dumped there. And those bridges that we bought out of the catalog have been there, some of them for 130 years. They've got to be replaced, but they're worn out now. But, you know, a modern bridge that you build with ferroconcrete is only going to last you for 25 to 50 years somewhere in that area before you have to start spending money on it. These bridges from Cherubini, Mr. Speaker, are going to be successful. We're not only going to have them in this province, but they're also going to be able to ship bridges down in pieces to the Caribbean. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I wish we had more time. Thank the honourable members for taking part in the debate this evening. The House is adjourned till 9 a.m.